Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Seed Time and Harvest. We've been learning how to grow our food practically. And Cherise, can you remind us what we looked at last week?
Well, last time we were here, we started looking at eggplants, and we looked basically on how to start your eggplant, how to grow and maintain your eggplants.
Right.
And continuing with that topic, Jose, what does the Bible tell us about soil, planting, growing our own food?
Yes, because the last thing we looked at is that we saw that it was yellowing. So if we look at Luke 13, verse 6 and 8, it tells us this. In our slide, it says, "He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon and found none." And verse 8 says, "And he answered, said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it." And so we're going to focus on the first verse here, verse 6, where he said he found no fruit thereon. And so we saw that it was because of lack of nutrition. So we're going to see why is it that certain trees or certain plants do not bear fruit.
Okay. And so this may be varied for several different reasons, because we understand that if we plant a seed, we expect that plant to grow, to survive, and to bear fruit. So if our plant is not producing fruit, then something is wrong.
Right.
And while you may have a pest problems, while you may have disease problems, another major problem can be a lack of nutrients.
Now, Cherise, if we look at this slide here, we see this plant.
Right.
And
it's a tomato.
it looks like it's a either diseased or malnourished plant.
Right.
And so how do we determine?
Well, for the one thing you want to make sure is that you rule out your disease and your pest problems, because a lot of time a nutrient deficiency may look similar to a plant disease. For example, you may have your leaves curling up and you may think, okay, my plant is dying, I need to feed it, figuring out what's wrong with it. But at the same time, if you have a spider problems on your plant, you may also have your leaves curling. And a calcium deficiency may lead to your leaves curling.
True.
So you want to be able to rule out your pest and disease before you say, okay, you diagnose a nutrient deficiency.
So you're going to be looking for bugs or any signs of disease.
Right.
Maybe an infestation, looking at the under leaves.
Right.
But there's certain ways that you can diagnose just by taking a visual.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to do first. We're going to visually inspect the plant to see whether it is deficient in the nutrients. We're going to focus on first the NPK, because that's what everybody's used to.
And you don't necessarily have to take a soil test to be able to tell what type of deficiency these have, because the leaves will tell you that something is wrong.
Right.
And closely examining the leaves, you have to know the difference though between a healthy plant, so that you can tell if your plant is sick. So knowing what a healthy plant looks like will be easier to figure out, okay, this plant is not so healthy.
Right.
So the NPK is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And these are the major nutrients that our plants need.
Right.
So how can we, by looking at the leaves, tell if we have a deficiency in these areas?
All right. If we look at our slide here, we see 3 leaves, NPK. And we're going to look first at the N, which is nitrogen.
Okay.
And nitrogen is used for the growth of the plant. Also, according to this, it's part of the chlorophyll necessary for photosynthesis and part of protein.
Yes.
So it helps the plant to grow big and bulky.
Yes. And deficiency in nitrogen, you'll have, of course, stunted growth. Your leaves may begin to fall off. You may have yellowing of the leaves, and your plant will not look as vigorous as it would look if it was healthy.
Right.
And what would excess nitrogen
And
lead
excess
to?
would give you a large plant with no fruit.
Yes.
And so that's not what you want either.
That's the other extreme.
So you want to make sure that you feed the correct amount. You don't want to overfeed
balance. Balance is key.
That's it.
And for the phosphorus is also good, essential for photosynthesis. It encourages blossoming and root development and fruiting of your plant.
As we see here in this slide.
Yes. So this is key also for seed. If you're looking for a good amount of seed from your plants, the phosphorus element is key, as well as for the cell wall structure. And what are some signs of deficiency?
Well, if you look at this one, it says the lower leaves and the stem look reddish or purplish. The young leaves look pale. The shoots are thin. The plants don't flower or form fruits. they prematurely drop, and the roots are stunted, and cell division is slow. So these are ways that you can see by looking at it. If you see a purplish on the ends of the leaves,
right.
that will tell you, okay, you may possibly have a phosphate deficiency.
Right.
Now, what about an excess?
Well, this particular nutrient is very essential in that too much of it will cause all the other minerals to be wrapped up,
right.
and your plants will not be able to absorb the nutrients correctly. So you want to be careful when you add phosphorus to your plants that you don't add too much,
okay.
because even if the correct other nutrients are there, your plant will not be able to absorb them.
So again, you want to make sure you don't overdo it or underdo it.
Yes.
All right, and the last one we're going to look at in detail is our potassium.
Right.
And now our potassium, what is that for?
Well, the potassium for us is wonderful. That is your immune system of your plant. It helps build the immune system. It helps prevent disease. It promotes good root development, cell wall development, and helps your plant to be able to retain moisture and promote photosynthesis as well.
Right. As we see on this slide here, now we're talking about a sign of deficiency.
By looking at the leaf, yes.
All right, and then on this one, we see that the lower leaves may become spotted, molted, or curled.
Okay.
The leaf tips and edges turn yellow and bronze, and then brown and appear dry and scorched. Stems are weak, the root system is small, the plant vigor is reduced. The plant is susceptible to wilting and wilt disease. Fruit is small, and the fruit is thin-skinned. Also, the fruit color is poor and the flavor as well.
Right.
Now, what about the excess?
Excess is, of course, you have fruit, coarse and poorly colored fruit, and you have reduced absorption of magnesium and calcium, which are also essential micronutrients that your plants need. So these, it's key then to have a balance of your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potassium in your soil. Right.
These are very important. There are also some other nutrients that are important. If we look at our next slide here, we see some other important ones that are not commonly mentioned. And what are they?
Well, here you have your calcium, and of course, whatever nutrients that you want to have in your body, that's what you're going to feed your soil, because your plant is going to convert those nutrients into an edible form that your body will be able to digest.
From inorganic to organic.
To organic, yes. So whatever we want, we have to make sure, for our body, we have to make sure that we feed our plants so that they can feed us in turn.
Yes.
So looking at calcium, we see that new leaves are misshaped or stunted when there's a calcium deficiency. And even though existing leaf may remain green, iron, which is also essential, young leaves are yellow and white with green veins, and mature leaves are also normal. And we have manganese and magnesium, which are also essential to our body development as well.
Right, so these are the most basic nutrients that your plant needs to thrive. There are also micronutrients, but we won't get into that right now.
Right.
But so if we look at this eggplant, we don't want to assume anything. So why don't we, before we make a visual examination, why don't we do an NPK test?
Okay, so you can get your soil testing kit, varied ones, from your garden center. You can get them at your local grocery store. Some of them carry your soil test. And basically it comes with 4 kits. You have your NPK test and also a pH tester. And when you open your kit, it's color-coded, and the capsules are also color-coded, so it's fairly easy to use. Just note that the instruction varies per kit, so make sure that you follow the instruction provided in the kits that you purchase. Now, along with these 4 color-coded containers, you have also the capsules, which are color-coded.
All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm going in past the 2-inch mark of the soil, and I'm going to get soil samples from that level. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them into this container here.
So for accurate soil tests, you want to make sure you're collecting your soil from different areas, like 3 or 4 different areas.
And this is similar to the pH test that we did.
Yes.
Also, did you want to make mention of how we can get a more accurate reading?
Well, also, aside from doing your soil tests at home and looking at the plant visually, you can collect soil samples and take them to your county extension office, or you can take them to a USD extension office. And some may be free, some may request a small cost for them to be able to give you a detailed soil test regarding the elements that are in your soil as well as the deficiencies that you may have in each particular element. All right, so we're just gonna do these and then we'll look at all of them afterward. Now, when you look at your soil, the testers, you're gonna see that there is a line there. You're gonna fill it with a little bit of dirt, and then you're gonna put in your water, and then you're gonna add your capsule, and you're just gonna shake it up. We have a lot of roots in this soil.
So that's a good thing. That means that the root system is strong.
While you're doing that, I'll just start opening the capsule. All right. That one is a phosphorus.
Oh. All right, so here we're going to check the phosphorus first. You want to shake that up for us while I work on the next one?
And it has levels that are color-coded, so you can tell based on looking at the colors to see if there's a deficiency or not. So we'll just let that one sit. You're doing the potassium.
Yes.
All right. And this is fairly simple to do. I'll put in this one while you're working on that. Just need a small amount of soil. Just make sure that you put the correct capsule in the correct container. And of course, if you have children, you don't want to do this in the presence of your children or mistakenly consume these capsules.
All right,
So
you
just
want to
be
make sure
very
you're
careful.
supervising your children closely, and you already put the test in for the nitrogen, right?
No, not this one.
No?
Okay.
So these are ways to be more sure of what it is that you're missing. You want to rule out any possibilities of you already having enough of something and not adding more than what you need.
Right.
All right, so what are you looking at there?
So it looks for the potash, the phosphorus. I think we have, it looks like a 1.
Yes.
So it looks like it is deficient in
Right.
potash.
Let's see if we can get them to see that as well. It's kind of hard with the glare. No, we won't be able to show you.
Okay. And it looks like our phosphorus, that's for potassium. That's a K. As the potassium is deficient and our phosphorus is completely depleted. There
wow,
is
look at
no
that.
sign of blue. And for our nitrogen, what do you think? It's not settled.
It almost looks like it's deficient in everything.
It's deficient as well in nitrogen. All right?
Yeah, there's no shade of purple at all.
So this is a simple way to be able to test your soil to see what's lacking or what do you have in your soil.
Right.
By looking at your plant, you can tell whether you have a healthy plant or a plant that is lacking in something, and testing will be able to give you a more direct detail as to what you need to add to
Right.
that particular soil.
So join us next time. What we're going to do is we're going to examine this visually and also make the proper amendments that are needed to fix the deficiencies.
All right.
Until then,
happy planting.
Happy planting.